I can't see you on Discord, FYI.
Let me fix that. No, it should work like this.
I'm gonna just quickly disconnect, reconnect, just to see if it's my end. The Discord. Still can't see you. Or is there an Oscar
Ho,
Shortlist
ho,
already?
ho, and
for
welcome
fuck's
back to the
sakes.
Quiet on Set podcast, powered by Cineman. I'm Young Graf, and joining me as always is my tiny little co-host, Lachlan Teely.
If I knew you were gonna do this, I would have brought an outfit.
This is fine. I like to be overdressed. I brought my suit, my tuxedo
How are you
to
gonna
come,
edit
and
this?
I didn't wear
Okay,
it.
if you edit this in a terrible way, I just want everybody to know that for the past 2 minutes I've been like, I can't see you, your camera's not working.
And
Ewan's been like, oh,
my
I'm
acting
trying to
has been
fix it,
really
let me
bad.
figure it out.
Mhm.
And then you just turn on your camera and you're fucking Santa Claus.
Yeah.
This is great.
Santa Claus, who's the devil as well.
Should I just continue on with the intro?
Yes, please, yeah.
On episode 166, it's almost the end of the year of 2023, and what a year it's been. You and I have a little chat about what's been happening this year, how it's been for the film industry, what we've had to watch, what was been great, what's not been great, but not our top 10s. We're just going to have a little discussion before we eventually get to our lists of the best movies of the year.
Yes, we'll get to that. I think in 2 weeks' time, we need a little more time to catch up on all the stuff that has released over the last week. I feel like putting on a voice wearing this, but I'm not going to.
I can't take you seriously.
Well, I had a great day yesterday at the theater. I had a 5-star movie day, which meant I saw the Iron Claw and Aquaman, which add up to 5 stars in total. I'll tell you about that in what we've been watching.
And because I feel like I have to dress up, what a poor thing. That is how you'll feel when you... This is just a dress-up episode. That's how you'll feel when starting Poor Things. Ewan and I have already seen the movie Poor Things. Ewan saw it many months ago. I saw it just 2 weeks ago, and just before its global release, Ewan and I will talk about this film this week.
Yeah, I think I just realized that I don't need to pull this all the way at the top. There was a hole there, and I thought
That's
it was
okay.
for my mouth. Yeah, this is very uncomfortable.
This is also super annoying.
Yes. So let's cue up the intro and get into the show. We are professional.
This is a professional podcast.
Yes.
Breaking Bad and Better Call Saul.
Hello there. Which actually,
Did you
this
get
is gonna
me a
be
hat
a
as
bit,
well?
Yes.
So I've got Dooncam. It's just a camera with my Dune steelbook. That's great. I like it when you surprise me. You just told me I
Yeah.
would have worn my Santa outfit.
Yeah, you had a Santa outfit. I wanted to surprise you. Because my
great.
present that I got for you this year might not come in time for Christmas, but maybe it will make its way there for your birthday. But we're not gonna leak what your birthday is, I guess. But yeah, that's not too far off
January
in the future.
27th. There you go, everybody.
All right,
There's my
he's
birthday.
sharing it. Yeah, now get all of his information out there. Sell it to the highest bidder. Yeah, we're nearing the end of the year, like you said, and it's a very busy time of year, for us.
Yeah.
And it also means kind of the way that the days fall that we have to pre-record some of our stuff. That's why it's a bit of a slow news week. The only thing that is really worth talking about, even though we got to see 20 seconds of it, is Spaceman, the latest thing that Adam Sandler is involved, and it looks to be quite intriguing. There's also Paul Dano and Carey Mulligan. It's from Johan Renck, who is was a part of the team that did Chernobyl. He was a director there, and he also worked on
A lot of TV
directing a couple
credits.
of
Chernobyl.
a lot of TV credits.
Breaking Bad. Walking Dead. Man, that's a lot of TV credits.
Mainly as a director, so not as like a showrunner or producer, but has me intrigued. Don't really get a lot from the short little teaser moment. We just hear Paul Dano talk and Adam Sandler walk, but I mean that's enough to get my interest. It's gonna be on Netflix. Yeah, I mean, Lachlan, what do you think? Are you gonna watch this new Adam Sandler film that's not a comedy?
Of course. It's like the new genre, right? There's not sci-fi or fantasy. It's Adam Sandler not doing comedy. That's the extra genre we've added in the past couple of years. So I'm excited, especially because of I haven't read it, but I read up about what the film is about, and it got me super intrigued
Yeah.
Jacob Praska was raised by his grandparents in Czech countryside. After being abandoned as a young boy, he works as a scientist before trying to become the Czech Republic's first astronaut. What?
Yeah.
I'm so intrigued already. So, this is just a teaser. It's not a trailer. It's literally like 10 seconds of just Adam Sandler in a spacesuit walking. That is all this trailer is, and it has already done enough to get me hyped. Not as good as last week's Dune trailer, but
Yeah.
still an incredibly simple trailer that makes me go, Adam Sandler, spacesuit, written by a European most likely, and gonna make me super excited.
I mean, I actually got to see the Dune trailer in theaters this week. I rarely go to
Flex.
like public screenings. It's not okay. I guess I'll take that. I got some more like actual flexes later in the show, so I'll let you.
I can't
get that
wait.
one already. But yeah, I watched Aquaman in theaters because I'll get to that later on. But I just saw the
There's
Dune
your flex.
trailer. That's not why that's the antithesis of a flex. That's like you should pity me for having to see that of
course.
in theaters. But no, I saw it on the big screen. And for some reason, I don't know, the theater I was in, it looked like it was slightly out of focus. Also, the whole like Aquaman movie looked slightly out of focus. But it was hyped to see that on the big screen. I think it's a really good trailer. Just to bring up Dune again, and it's not that far off, man. I'm really looking forward to it.
Oh.
But yeah, not a lot out yet. That's why, it's because we are recording this early in the week. There's not that many new trailers, and it's the slower part of the year as well. You know, right up to the holidays. That's why we had more trailers in the last couple of weeks, and now until the next year is starting up, we're not getting that much. But the Oscars revealed the shortlists for some of the categories. These are usually the ones that are considered below the line. So it's not your writing, your directing, your best movie, stuff like that. But stuff like the documentary features, the shorts, the international movies, animated, original song and score, makeup and hairstyling, visual effects, and sound all got revealed. Not the actual nominees. The 5 nominees that each category will have, but a shortlist of, I think, usually 10 movies are in there, if I'm not mistaken. Sometimes some have like 15 or maybe more. But yeah, I had to look through this. There's some stuff that is missing that I'm a bit upset about. Lachlan, I don't know if you had a chance to skim through it and see if there's anything
a little
that
squiz right now.
I think the most interesting one is international, and what you see missing there are, for me, 2 movies. One of them is the Estonian submission, Smoke Sauna Sisterhood. It's a smaller film, but I think it would have deserved to be nominated here. And then secondly, the way bigger omission is a film that we saw in Gun, and that was like one of the best that we saw there, About Drag Races. It is not even on the shortlist, and I'm a bit upset. I'm more than a bit upset.
Yeah,
I'm
wow.
actually really upset. He's really beloved in Gun. I think he's had like 3 or 4 of his films premiere there, but I don't think to this day he has an Oscar nomination, so it's no surprise that he was overlooked here. But the overall list of the international nominees, I'll put them on screen right now, are actually like really solid. I think The Promised Land from Denmark is great. Fallen Leaves from Finland. Even A Taste of Things, you know, Anatomy of a Fall is something that a lot of people would have preferred. Will still likely get in some other places, but that's France's submission. The Teacher's Lounge, I'll talk about that later today. I saw that one. Perfect Days, my favorite movie of the year. So great to see that in here.
Whoa.
Yes.
Big praise.
Big praise. And The Zone of Interest here as well. It's the UK submission. Even to documentaries that are also on the shortlist for the documentary features. 4 Daughters from Tunisia and 20 Days in Mariupol from the Ukraine. Yeah, it's been a great year for international cinema, and yeah, I have like 4 on this list that I haven't seen yet on the shortlist, so I'll try and catch up on those. And yeah,
Which
anything
ones?
else that stood out
Can
to
I
you?
ask which ones?
Yeah, I haven't seen Americazzi, but you can rent that one on Amazon. The only one that is going to be hard to find is the one from Bhutan, the Monk and the Gun. The last couple of years, they've just like always it's also the same director or company or whatever that got nominated the last couple of years from Bhutan. We'll see. The films have been a bit underwhelming, but yeah, would have maybe preferred something else over this. I haven't seen Godland. That's on the Criterion channel, so I'll see that probably later this week as well. And I also haven't seen Totem. Actually, it's 5 that I haven't seen. I lie. No, 6. Shit. Okay, I'm worse than I thought.
7?
Society of the Snow. I haven't seen, but I do have a screener for it, so I'll get to that before the end of the year. And then Four Daughters was supposed to come out on VOD a couple of days ago, but I haven't found it yet. But yeah, I'll catch up on those. But a good list. But yeah, I would have loved to have seen About Dry Grasses on here as well. But yeah, what do you think? What do you think about the not just the international, maybe also some other stuff? If you have any thoughts on that.
Yeah, well, I'm currently looking at this list. There's obviously a lot to go through because at the end of this, most of these will be cut in half, if not a quarter, down to the last quarter of a nominee, which is insane to see that so many of these get offered a position, and even just to be shortlisted is an honor to show the level of craft that goes into some of these films. But looking at some of these other films as well, I mean, if you look at obviously the most important category, makeup and hairstyling, you've got Beau is Afraid, Ferrari, which needs to make Adam Driver look Italian, so Golda
doesn't sound
Killers of
Italian, so
Flower
at least
Moon,
that's the look it.
The Last Voyage of Demeter. Did you watch that, right?
I've seen, apart from Society of the Snow and Golda, I've seen everything in this category, and I thought the monster was very CGI heavy, but I guess there was also makeup and hairstyling. I don't know. It's okay. It's like, okay, it's crazy. It's not gonna get the Oscar nomination. Like 100%, it's not gonna get it. But it's a surprise.
So here's a question.
It's a nice surprise.
I think so. I haven't seen Maestro yet, or Ferrari, or Golda, but I don't need to see Last Voyage of Delamere, and I don't think I need to see Society of Snow. But I think that makeup and hairstyling, Poor Things. I mean,
Poor Things, yeah.
Pretty strong. So. I mean, we haven't even got to talking about the film yet, and
yeah,
I already want to say, massive Oscar contender.
We'll have like at the end of our review, we'll do like a short little discussion about what Poor Things maybe did best of this year, because there's a bunch of stuff that it could be considered for.
And if we just scroll down a little bit, Ewan, we're on the IndieWire article here. Visual effects. If you look at visual effects, there's obviously a film that I think that people were expecting to be on there, but it's not. Do you know what that film is?
One of the DC ones, or
it's Ferrari, because I had to use CGI to make Adam Driver look Italian. No, I'm kidding. It's Oppenheimer. Okay. There's no Oppenheimer in VFX. Oh,
yeah.
Interesting, right?
Yeah. I mean, they were certainly like it wasn't to that level where Oppenheimer has also had like the discourse around like, hey, everything is in camera. There's not a lot of CGI, and there is CGI, there is VFX that go into it, but it's not the same-ish campaign that Top Gun Maverick had, which was like, oh yeah, we shot it all there, it was all there, but there was a ton of CGI that you just didn't notice in Top Gun. And didn't Top Gun win Best VFX? I don't remember, but I just kind of feel like that was the case. At least it was nominated. And I guess with Oppenheimer, that didn't really carry along. I think also Poor Things has a lot of like really great CGI use for like background stuff. They love to nominate a bunch of Disney projects here usually. The only thing I'm seeing though is Guardians 3. There's no, like Spider-Verse is something different, but it's nice to see an animated movie in here for its visual effects. And Indiana Jones is an interesting one. The Creator definitely deserved to be in here. I hope it also gets nominated. And Godzilla -1, man, that's a really nice surprise as well.
My only argument about Oppenheimer not being in there is that Oppenheimer has CGI. Like there is no doubt Oppenheimer has CGI involved, but the CGI is quite hidden in comparison to a lot of these other movies where they are more in your face. I mean they didn't really shoot Rebel Moon on a moon with an opening shot of a planet. They did not do that. That's all CGI. That's more in your face, where Oppenheimer takes a more hidden approach to its VFX. But I feel like that should still be recognized a little bit. I think it should be recognized
I counter you
more than Indiana Jones.
I counter you with 1917, which won the Oscar for being a one-take and basically stitching stuff together. It's not like they don't appreciate small VFX stuff that is impressive. I think the Creator deserves to get this award I think it's great that Godzilla is in here.
For the budget and the way it was shot, 100%.
Yeah. I would love to see the creator, Godzilla, Spider-Verse. I haven't seen Rebel Moon yet. And then maybe Mission Impossible is great. And give it to Guardians. Guardians, I think, has really solid CGI as well. Those 5 would be my 5 picks to get nominated. Wouldn't be upset if Poor Things makes it in there. Napoleon is like, I don't know. There's some
Again,
stuff, but it's also another like
CGI.
hidden, exactly, yeah, for crowd stuff and the battle scenes. I haven't seen a lot. Like for this, you gotta, for the more stuff that's hidden, you gotta see the CGI breakdowns that they do to campaign for these films.
Yeah.
And yeah, technically it's always very impressive. But yeah, I was a bit upset that for best score, Past Lives is not even considered. A bit upset about that, because it had a really amazing score as well. But I mean, The Boy and the Heron is not a great one in here. There's a ton of nominees. I don't know. We don't need to go over all of them.
And at least we know that I'm Just Ken is safe for original song.
Yeah, there's 3 nominees from Barbie.
There's still, yeah.
I'd say from the 3 Barbie songs, Dance the Night, I'm Just Ken, and What Was I Made For? Right before we recorded this, Lachlan was off to make make himself a coffee, and I put on What Was I Made For and passionately sang along. It's one of my favorite songs of the year. I think it's a really great one. So wouldn't be upset if that one takes it. But I mean, yeah.
Also, I'm pretty sure, I'm not gonna say this, but they just released a Merry Christmas Barbie edition of I'm Just Ken.
Yeah, I mean, Ryan Gosling re-recorded. There's 3 different versions of it for I'm Just Ken. I listened to all 3 of them, and I gotta say they all like really suck, to be honest, and they're not good in my opinion, and are not really worth it. I know it's probably for like an Oscar push that they're doing this, or maybe it's just for good fun. But
and the meme.
I think they were kind of not worth putting out. Yeah,
but also it was Ryan Gosling at a
funny.
piano, and all I thought was La La Land, and I fell in love again.
Yeah, I mean, if that does the job, then they wouldn't miss out if I'm Just Ken is not nominated, and they wouldn't get the live performance from like a bunch of the actors who played Ken in Barbie all on stage. I feel like they definitely want that moment. So I would be really surprised if I'm Just Ken doesn't make it. I don't know what the rules are if you can have more than one song nominated for the same film. But yeah, all 3 of them are pretty decent.
I feel like the rules are pretty loose these days, mate. For the Oscars?
I don't know, man. They're quite strict sometimes as well for certain things, but you like for no, I guess yeah, for the Oscars it's usually pretty clear what it is. There's some other award shows where like the foreign language film is like a certain percentage that it needs to be in that language to be considered that. So like Past Lives at like one award show was a foreign language film, although it's an American movie, with just Korean people in it, and part of it takes place in South Korea. Weird stuff, gets complicated. I'm also very happy to have The Zone of Interest both in sound, which deserved, it should win that, and also in score. I think that was a great choice, and I'm glad it's not overlooked in those categories. Yeah, that's basically it, unless you want to add something to the Oscar shortlist.
Well, we don't have all the categories in this shortlist. There's so many more to come out, which are obviously the bigger nominations of actor, actress, supporting, picture, director. But as these smaller categories, which unfortunately don't get a large amount of screen time when it comes to these award shows, it is good to just recognize them and appreciate the effort that a lot of these studios went into, and even being shortlisted, as I said earlier, is a big honor with the Oscars. Like it's to be put up above the same level as these other films that came out is incredible. Wouldn't you say so, Santa?
Ho ho ho. Yeah, no, I think the Oscars are definitely waiting for our first video of 2024 when we do the Quiet on Set Awards, so they can kind of copy paste what we have there. So stay tuned for that. We have a couple of fun categories that maybe the Oscars should even add, but we'll see. Copy it all. If we see some of the fun categories that we have that later on in the award show, you know where they got it from. Then there's other small piece of, not so small piece of news, but Throughout the last couple of weeks, Jonathan Majors has been on trial. Verdict has been reached, and he's been found guilty. We don't need to go over all of the details. It's pretty messy, and not really something I want to read up on. The industry effects on this is, though, that Disney did finally now say, we fire you, Jonathan Majors. And Avengers 5 is now has a different title. It was initially called the Kang Dynasty, and now it's just called Avengers 5. And I think this also kind of gives them a chance to rework some of the stuff that also hasn't been working with Jonathan Majors already in some of their films and shows, like in Loki and Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania. What a mouthful of a trailer, of a title. Maybe we get someone like Doctor Doom, because the year before Avengers 5 comes out, we got the Fantastic Four movie, so might be a chance to work that in and take a different direction. I don't think we're like deeply invested in where the MCU goes next, but if they manage to make good movies again that are entertaining and don't feel like dumb slop, lazy slop, then I'm ready to be entertained again, and not just annoyed by the carelessness that goes into these movies. I feel like you're probably gonna feel the same, or are you like done with the MCU for a while?
I'm probably done for the MCU for a while, but a thought that just came into my head. In 20, 30 years, when we get the Netflix reboot of Iron Man, like they're doing with like the Texas Chainsaw Massacre, or like the trilogy of Halloween, like we get the Captain America trilogy again. What are we gonna think then? Like, you know, back in the 80s, 90s, we had horror films, and those kind of horror films died out, and they've kind of made a resurgence again. And I feel like the same has happened with many of genres. They kind of like die out and then they come back. Is that going to happen with superhero movies? Are we going to have a resurgence of superhero movies in 20 years' time? After this first big initial, a Western's going to come back for 10 years and then die out again. And then we're going to have musicals. Like, what's the next? What's the next genre that's going to be top notch? What's going to be at the cinema drawing people in?
I mean, it's really interesting that, like, in at least this past year, even if a movie has been a musical, it's not been advertised that way, like, at all. We've seen it with Mean Girls. We are seeing it now with The Color Purple. There was another movie that
Wonka.
I'm blanking on. Wonka, exactly. They're all musicals, but they're not advertised as musicals, so I feel like Hollywood is very afraid because people are like, oh, that's really cheesy and dumb, we don't want that. And then once they see it, they actually kind of like it. Musicals don't tend to just get dismissed and hated immediately at this current state, so you might be onto something there. I know that our producer Kevin would love to see a resurgence of westerns. He's obsessed with them. But I mean, yeah, all the variety in the world I would definitely appreciate. So we'll have to wait and see. Maybe anime is the future, though. We've seen it with Netflix doing live action adaptations, and the one or the other, or the one actually being kind of decent with One Piece. And then I saw something baffling. A trailer for the One Piece, and it turns out it's a remake, an animated remake.
Are you okay? Are you talking about the animated remake of the anime?
I want to give Netflix some coal for being so bad. I don't know why they need to remake an anime as an animated series on Netflix. Why? And they're doing it.
It's never been done before. Has it been done before? We don't know.
Yeah, because the main question would be why. But
why?
Why? I guess you got the IP locked down even to adapt it.
Fix something that's not broken. You know? Like, why?
Mm-hmm. That's a question that is on our mind. And we're not in search of the One Piece, but in this week's discussion time, we are still on the lookout for that one movie that is gonna breach into our top 10. And as 2023 comes to a close, we are prepping our lists. And Lachlan, are there any standouts that you've been watching recently, or do you have on your radar that you want to shout out?
Well, I'm watching 4 movies this week in prep of obviously getting that list together. A lot of them have been ones that you have suggested, those being The Holdovers, Priscilla, Maestro, Dream Scenario, the Court Mutiny Court Martial. The Kane Mutiny Court Martial. And Saltburn. That's another one. So I've got I'm pretty full so far this week with what I've got to be watching.
Me too.
But I definitely want to catch a couple of those. I don't know if I'm going to see Fallen Leaves before the end of the year as well to add onto my radar. But yeah, man, like there is one film that I will shout out that unfortunately I haven't been able to see again since Cannes, and that's La Chimera. I'd love to rewatch it again to see if it was just in the moment or if it was a great movie. I don't know.
Yeah, Lachlan,
I want to be able to rewatch it again.
I told you I'm late with sending you your present. I actually want to show you something real quick.
Don't do it to me. Don't do it to me. Oh my gosh. If he pulls out one of those like Y sticks that you use to find water or treasure, whatever, I will lose my mind. What will it be? It's a piece of paper. He's also in the Santa outfit, which makes this way better.
Yeah. That's why I was like, I gotta do this. I know you're a huge fan of La Chimera, and we were playing it at our theater, and I grabbed the poster.
Were you? Oh, dude. Oh, it's such a good poster as well. I love it. Oh, it's a gem.
Yeah, and I'll be sending that to you. My little
mate, that's
sleigh
wicked.
By Slay.
I'm so wait, it started playing at your cinema, so it must be coming out soon here. You're okay. Jeez, how big's the poster?
Yeah, huge. Because I'm 7 feet tall, so gotta tell you something about the
Wow,
poster.
so it played fairly recently. It looks like it released in November for you guys. Actually, there's a couple of different Switzerland releases, but there's no Australian release yet. Oh, please. Yeah. I just want to rewatch this movie again. That's all I want.
Yeah, maybe we'll get it on VOD soon, but I don't know if you get another theater experience. That's that as far as presents go. I got a couple of things on my watch list still as well, but I was also able to knock some of them out. I'll definitely rewatch some stuff, because currently, if you look at my ranked list, Oppenheimer is, I think, not in the top 5, and I see it at the top of a lot of people's lists. Yeah. So I kind of want to reconsider it, but I got to experience it flex here in an IMAX theater, and the whole thing was shaking, and it was so nice to experience that movie, but it was also devastating. And while I was experiencing the film, because I feel like it is an experience, you're not just watching. I after I watched it, I was devastated. I was like, I don't know if I ever want to rewatch that, because that like shook me. It was so gripping, in its overall narrative. And I guess I'll try before we do top 10 lists and see if it actually moves up a few spots.
Here's a real question then. Like, who cares about the best movie or whatever? What's like the worst movies this year?
You don't want to get into that with me, because there are way too many. There's so many really bad
You give
movies.
me one and I'll give you one.
Sure, I'll give you one that actually released last week. The Family Plan with Mark Wahlberg on Apple TV+.
Oh,
horrible.
That sounds
Horrible
terrible.
movie. Yeah. There's Valorant.
Do you remember
in
Club
the
Zero?
film. I do remember Club Zero. Oh my God.
How bad was that
I'm looking
movie?
at it. It was really bad, yeah. And somehow, I think on Letterboxd it's not being hated. It's at 3.0. In my opinion, way too high for that film.
How?
Yeah. But there's a couple bad ones. But I think overall, like, that's why, a little spoiler here for our video where we go over all of our award shows. I don't think we'll award like a worst movie of the year, because ultimately it's just to say, like, you're sensationalizing how bad something is, and if it's not entertaining, then like, what's the benefit of letting you know what's been really bad? Just ignore it and move on. Hopefully gets less attention. So there's no incentive to make more of that bad stuff. So instead, I think we're going to focus on the biggest disappointments. And there's a couple of disappointments of the years, some stuff that I was really hyped about. And then, it didn't really deliver. But overall, I think it's been a really strong year. Comparatively to last year, I think it's even better, even though I do love this movie over here. This one. There's a couple that rival it this year in how great they are. So anything else you wanna shout out for your watch list plans?
I'm just reading like the 1-star reviews of like Wonka and stuff, and then it's just like, because my letterbox feed is Wonka and Godzilla -1 right now, and it's like 1 star for Wonka, 5 star for Godzilla -1, and it's just Also, Godzilla -1. Sorry, back off track of discussion time. Yeah. Black and white Godzilla -1. Are we hyped? Because I'm hyped.
Wait, I didn't know about this.
They're doing a re-release of Godzilla -1 in black and white.
Yeah, that's sweet. Yeah, I like that.
Done.
Probably
Sold. If it's perfectly done, 5 stars. I'm redoing Godzilla -1, 5 stars.
I want to rewatch that as well because this is actually not a flex this time. Got to see this at like a private screening at the Swiss distributor. But the way that I know it's kind of a flex, but the way that they showed it to us was like streaming it off of their projector that was like also a really small screen, and it had a huge like watermark, like about a third of the screen, and it was also like a low bit rate. It looked horrendous. And that's not how you should experience this movie. You should watch it on a big screen with good sound. The sound was also just like one sound bar in the front. So like, what am I doing here? I want to rewatch that one. I think I like it a bit more on a rewatch because that definitely took away from my experience. But Lachlan, you asked me if I had any of the like worst movies of the year that I can talk about, and that kind of brings us to what we've been watching. Very solemnly open this. I know you haven't been watching anything. Maybe you want to talk about what you've been playing, but before that, I'll tell you just how bad Aquaman and the Lost Kingdom was. I think it's in contention for the worst movie of the year. It was so bad. I gave it a half star.
Bad, eh?
Yeah.
Wait. Wait. Before you even continue, can I ask?
Yeah.
Is it like when I give it a half star, sometimes I'm like, I just don't want to give it 0 stars. I want to give it a half star so it skews the score down. Or is it genuinely a half star?
At some point, I was thinking like, oh, we are getting into the 1 star, 1.5 star category because there's some action scenes. But then they're so cut up and there's no motivation, and then the solution to the issues, or like the thing that's like in the action scenes is always so incredibly stupid that I hated it. I hated it. And it like they have, obviously this is the end of the DCEU, right? It's telling that like usually there's press screenings for all of these films like a week before, maybe in the same week. Maybe there's an embargo that really is up until the day that it releases, so you know the pre-sales aren't affected by like really bad ratings before a movie comes out. None of that is what happened with Aquaman. They just straight up didn't do a press screening. So I had to go to a public screening to even like be able to review this, right? And you couldn't get the review up before the movie comes out here in Switzerland. And I think it's been like I haven't seen a ton of reactions for it when it comes from like the press. They've just been trying to silently dump this one and drown it in the salt water. The trailers are also very misleading. The trailers show you that like it's going to be a kidnap movie. That kidnap part happens in the last fourth of the film. It has nothing to do with the rest of it. It is a very jumbled mess. We get a basically like 20-minute long sequence after we see Aquaman again with Black Manta, I think is his name. Where he establishes all of that and like a scientist that works with him that's played by Randall Park. And Randall Park is somehow in the entire movie. And he seems to be a bigger character than like Hera, Amber Heard. They completely cut her out of the film. This movie has been so like disassembled and tonally thrown together where like there's a bunch of scenes where Patrick Wilson and Jason Momoa are in it together. Spoilers here, because who the fuck cares? He breaks him out of prison to team up with him. because he needs him, the Ocean Master. And then there's like a bunch of like buddy cop stuff, buddy comedy type stuff that they do with each other, and it just like it clashes with the tone all the time. It ends with like him, spoilers here because it ultimately doesn't affect anything anymore, with him bridging the gap between the human world and Atlantis, and basically coming out as a fishman, and telling the world about like Atlantis. And there's a moment where Jason Momoa, it was like they straight up don't give a fuck anymore because this universe is over. He looks into the camera and just basically yells out of character, "I'm Aquaman, bitch," I think, or like, "I'm Aquaman," and then drops the mic and basically laughs. That's the end to that. Like it was so bizarre to see this. Like it was such a shit show. It was so bad. And even in this film,
Who do we blame?
remember in the first one, I think James Wan is the director of this, right? Still, let me actually check. I don't know if he is still on. James Wan, James Wan, director of Insidious, Conjuring,
I know James
Saw.
2, but I don't know James 1.
Don't make fun of my pronunciation. Go on.
You're welcome.
Sorry. He is the director of this one. I think this movie also cost $205 million reportedly. My God, they're gonna lose out on that. It's not gonna make anybody. But it feels like James 1 and James 2, Thing 1 and Thing 2 here together. They could not give a single fuck about this. Like it feels like they're just putting it out to put it out there. Everyone's just there to collect a paycheck. And Jason Momoa's having a good time, so maybe you'll have a good time with him. But this it was horrible. I hated it so much. Earlier that day, I got to see the Iron Claw. There was a bit of a mishap as well. There was a press screening 2 days earlier, and they just like, we were all sitting in the theater and waiting for the film to start. And then they basically said like, we are bad. We forgot to load the film ahead of time. So it's loading right now. Looks like it's going to take 20 to 30 minutes to load it. We're like, okay, well, that sucks. They're like, okay, we'll do like a second screening for this if you want to go right now. I was like, damn, I already invested over an hour just to get here one way. Sitting there, I was like, please play the film. 20 minutes later, they come in again and go like, so basically it's taking so long that it will affect the public screening hours of this theater. So we actually have to do it at a later date. I was like, fuck you guys, that's so annoying. So it ended up being a positive thing because I got to see Aquaman on right after the Iron Claw. But all I'll say is don't read up on, if you're not familiar with the like real life story this is based on, don't read up on it too much, because there's also a bunch of differences that they do, creative liberties that they take with some of the characters in it. I think there's like one of the brothers that they kind of combine and just get rid of one of them, which is a bit odd. But it's a movie that's very securely in my top 15. It might even move it all the way up to my top 10. It's a really solidly made film. Great performance from Zac Efron, Harris Dickinson. I'm mixing George McKay and Harris Dickinson up. There's also Jeremy Allen White in it, who gives a great performance. I think one of the best of the year, or maybe I guess early next year. Go give that one a try. And then Disney sent me the first 4 episodes of Percy Jackson and the Olympians. Like in my memory, you are kind of a Percy Jackson fan, if I'm not mistaken, right?
Sure.
No?
For you, no. For you, yes.
Okay, cool. Well, I haven't read anything. I haven't watched anything. I thought you were kind of into, what is it, like Greek mythology? Am I mixing you up with someone else? Okay, cool. I was like, okay, am I completely...
Hang on.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is...
It's also getting very hot in this costume. So, if I'm not making any sense...
What's the temperature right now, Ewan?
Oh, it's like really cold outside, but inside of here, inside of this is really hot.
Well, I'm glad I'm not wearing it, because right now it's 31. Nice. This is a great book. I'll shout this out. Mythos, Stephen Fry.
Mm-hmm.
This is kind of what got me into Greek mythology. I wasn't really into Greek mythology. I was more or less into Norse and Egyptian mythology, and then I found the Greek one kind of overdone, and then this got me into it.
Well, this series is, I think, more aimed at again, like a younger audience again. I think the people who grew up with Percy Jackson are now like in their 20s and their 30s. I think, right. I would guess. I don't know. I've never read it. It successfully enters like a new adaptation of this series. I think they do it pretty well. What's a bit annoying about this is like sometimes kids have to play like gods or like people who are way older than they appear to be, and to me that is like when they have to deliver like dialogue that just doesn't fit what they look like because they're kids. It's like immediately very cringe to me, and that's what happens a lot in this show. But overall, I think it's pretty well made. I think the first episode is quite good, and then it's like kind of okay-ish for the next 3. And it's going to be, I think, an 8-episode total for the series, and it's going to premiere over like the next 8 weeks or 7 weeks. So yeah, if you're into Percy Jackson, might be time to revisit the universe. And then yeah, lastly, sorry, yep, okay. Was that?
That's it.
It wasn't a call up for you, to like.
Sorry.
Because I told.
Sorry.
You're now the Percy Jackson person of this podcast, but
sorry.
I just kind of named
Apologies. I apologize.
All good.
Did not mean to insult you.
You can stay here after class for a bit.
Once you're done with what you've been watching, can I ask you if you watch another movie?
Yeah.
Oh, once you're done.
Sure. Teachers Lounge, Germany's submission to the Oscars. It's out on VOD. And it's, I think, actually kind of likely that it might be a surprise nomination for the actual Oscars. It's a really solid film that builds tension. It's about like bullying, but the bullying of like the school to teachers, and like the way that they say bullying in because they have like a zero tolerance policy when it comes to stealing. Stuff keeps like disappearing, and the way that they uncover this is kind of ends up being like super messy. It's very much a vindictive and successful portrayal of some of the workplace tensions that you do have in the Teachers Lounge. Sometimes as someone who has worked as a substitute teacher, it's a solid film, and go check it out if you can. Again, you can rent it right now, and yeah, might even one that's relevant for the Oscar race later on. But yeah, Lachlan, what movie you want to talk about?
I haven't watched it yet, but have you seen this Leave the World Behind on Netflix?
Yeah, I think I talked about it on the show like 2 weeks ago, or like.
Okay.
But I guess you weren't listening. I guess you were playing Dead Cells the last time I was talking about it, I think.
Quick one. Is it good
bad.
or bad?
Bad. I didn't like it. It was bad.
Okay.
Like the characters talk as if it was like they got the novel and they were reading off from the novel for their characters. It's like that type of film.
The reason I ask is I discovered that it was Sam Esmail who made it, who's the creator of Mr. Robot, and I will put Mr. Robot as like my favorite TV show of all time. So I got super interested because this is like the latest thing that he's done, and yeah, maybe I won't watch it then, but maybe I will watch it. I don't know. Ooh.
Maybe you should.
I won't tell you what I'll do. Ooh, mystery.
All right, then I won't ask anymore. Yeah, I started to do actually I started to do these like weekly recaps because what we've been watching is always kind of heavy on my side. So I'm kind of recapping everything that came out that came out this week, that got available on VOD and in theaters, and what I've seen. And yeah, that's on my own channel. 2 episodes out right now, and I'll try to do these weekly. So shout out to that. And if you're already kind of scrolling down and not really on the video right now, or you're like going around in your podcast app of choice, then consider leaving a rating there and subscribing and leaving a like on YouTube. Is greatly appreciated and helps us transition nicely into the next year. But Lachlan, let's get to the main review of the week. Spoiler review for Poor Things from Yorgos Lanthimos.
Brought back to life by an unorthodox scientist, a young woman runs off with a lawyer on a whirlwind adventure across the continents. Free from the prejudices of her time, she grows steadfast in her purpose to stand for equality, and liberation.
I like that logline. It's like really out there in the way that it gets the vibe of the movie correctly, because it kind of is written in the way that the characters also somewhat talk in this film. But yeah, this film premiered early this year at the Venice Film Festival and won the main prize there, the Golden Lion. It's by Searchlight Pictures and comes in at a runtime of 141 minutes. That was really surprising to me, because this movie, I didn't feel like it was almost 2.5 hours long. It felt like a breeze, and it's been received very positively so far. A 4.3 on Letterboxd, an 8.5 on IMDb, and an 86 on Metacritic. That is with the festival premieres that it has had so far, and a limited run. It is now, as we record this on the day, expanding wide into theaters, so that rating might come down, because I can already feel a bunch of conservatives just like hating on it. So, oh, there's sex, there's nudity in this, so we hate this. Don't do this. That's what I'm expecting, but it's still one of the frontrunners for a lot of the Oscars, maybe even the one for Best Movie of the Year. I'd certainly wouldn't be against that choice. And it was made for a budget of 35 million, and the gross we kind of don't know yet, because it's about to expand wide and has yet to release in international markets. It's out for you. Lachlan, you caught it at a preview screening, I think 1 or 2 weeks ago.
Yep.
And yeah, it's out now in Australia, I think, and won't be until next year here in Switzerland, until the 18th of January. But I was lucky enough to get to see it at the premiere in Venice, which also means I haven't had the chance to rewatch it since then. So it's been a couple of months. I'll try and use my baby-sized brain to hopefully get the most of what I liked about this. But yeah, this is also a novel adaptation from a novel of the same name from Alasdair Gray, a Scottish writer that was published in 1992. Yeah, Lachlan, what do you think about Poor Things? Is it worth the hype? Is it worth the accolades and the awards that it's been getting? Or is it overhyped?
I believe it's worth the hype. I believe it's worth seeing. I think that every so often you come across a piece of media that you weren't expecting to take you on a journey, and you weren't expecting it to be as enthralling as it was. And I say this coming off of my high of Alan Wake 2, the video game. I did not have that on my radar. I wasn't looking out for it. I only played the first one a few months ago, and that's my game of the year. Similar to this, while I think there are elements to Alan Wake 2 that I don't enjoy, I can appreciate what it is. There are elements to Poor Things that I don't enjoy. And you said that it went by like a breeze. I actually feel like there are some scenes that are too long, and in fact there are some scenes that are too short, and that's where its shortcomings are in some of its pacing elements. But almost everything else, its performances, its set design, cinematography, its sound, music, it's all fantastic. It's all perfect in a way. It's all bringing you into this universe. And at first, it's a bit hard to get into. It's a bit, uncomfortable. But I realized driving home, that's the situation. That's what they're trying to do. They're trying to make you uncomfortable at the start so that you can then feel more comfortable, similar to Bella's character. And that made me go, all right, I just sat and enjoyed a piece of media that I wasn't expecting to be as good as it was. It took me on a journey, and it made me feel emotions that I didn't realize I was feeling until after the fact. So, hell yeah, this movie's worth seeing. Hell yeah, this movie's worth your time. And I'm so glad it is in this year, because I feel like we didn't get a lot of wacky, fun, weird movies as much as Poor Things is wacky and weird and fun, and that was super exciting.
I know you didn't connect with a bunch of the comedies that I've championed, that I said like that you were kind of perplexed by my ratings and me overrating it in your opinion. So was this more on your wavelength when it comes to humor? Would you say this is a comedy or more drama or something in between?
I laughed at moments. There was one moment that I can't remember which scene it was, but I remember I laughed audibly and no one else in the cinema laughed. And I was with Tanika at the time, and she was like, and yeah, there was just a part where I laughed, and like that was just funny to me. So there are moments where the film lands comedy, and there are moments where I didn't laugh, but I wouldn't say this is fully up my lane for what I prefer in a comedy. Because while it is a dark comedy, I found it more worthwhile for the actual physical aspect of what was on the screen. Like, I found the technicalities of this movie way more interesting than I actually found the narrative. That was probably one of my downsides, is that I don't enjoy the story as much as I enjoyed the world. I enjoyed the performances. I enjoyed the actual way that Yorgos Lanthimos frames shots and uses the weird wide angle fisheye lens style shots like he did in The Favourite. Like, there are just so many elements from his previous films that have kind of all incorporated into this one, and that was exciting to see, where I was like, oh, that's from this film that he did, and it's from this film that they did, and that was fun for me to really pick apart this film and go, this is where he got this element, this is where he got this element. And Poor Things is kind of like a magnum opus. I hope it's not for his career, because he's a super exciting filmmaker to follow, but it does feel like a high point for his filmography of the everything kind of coming together to being this wacky, wonderful world that's put together.
No, I completely agree. I think I have another film that I like more than this one of his filmography, because I'm a huge fan of The Lobster. And I think that one is like way smaller in what it's trying to go for. The premise is simpler, and here it is like, in some way it is a huge like character study, in addition to all of the other things that it is, just this fantastical world. But it is someone who's growing up in this world. That's essentially like, it's a coming of age story for this character who is dead and then reanimated, which by Willem Dafoe, Goodwin Baxter, who himself is someone who's been modified, right? And has like all of those weird looks that he has to himself. I forget if he's like his character also has like a bunch of issues with his master, and I think this movie is somehow
his father
also able his father is also able to convey some of the shortcomings that he felt like with his dad, that he's still not able, like, even though he doesn't want to be like his dad, he wants to like make something better, make something different, be different. He still falls into the same kind of traps that are laid for you through your upbringing. If consciously or unconsciously it ends up happening, like that's an aspect that you could dive into, and it's just a Willem Dafoe character that is mesmerizing in this. But Emma Stone, like, it goes without saying, she's had some incredible performances. This is by far her best one. I think it is, apart from Sandra Hüller in Anatomy of a Fall. I think this is, after that, I think it's the best performance of the year. It's really, really good what she does here.
Yeah. Agreed.
Yeah, she has to go from basically baby mode with a small brain in her head, as she grows and learns, has to retrace not retrace, but I guess, and also in parts, slight spoiler here, retrace her steps by also finding her own way. And the way that she does that in like segments, the way that they split it, because I listened to a bunch of the interviews that they've had, because they weren't able to shoot this obviously chronologically. She had to kind of track where she's at. So they segmented all of the parts of her different stages, so she could kind of just compartmentalize. That isn't a word. I said that incorrectly, but you know what I'm trying to say. To get that right. But then even in between those steps, in between those segments where like it should be around the same, like you're not jumping to like the next stage of her evolution, there's like micro steps that she does at each point. There's so many nuances that she's able to put into this character. It's like, it's incredibly impressive beyond, I think, this year when it comes to performances, what she's able to do here. And you brought up the theater experience. I don't know how eruptive your that's not I think also another word. Coming up with words today. Your theater was with the comedy in here. I Flex got to see it at the Venice premiere, right? The first audience that got to see it, and it was a full theater. And apart from Hitman, an actual comedy by Richard Linklater, got picked up by Netflix, comes out next year. This was the most the theater was like alive and laughing at a movie at the entire festival in Venice. It was incredibly lively, and there was a ton of laughs to be had. Like it was a great experience for that overall. It definitely elevated the film as well. And I'll hand it off to you again to talk about Mark Ruffalo. What did you think about his performance?
I think that it is one of the best supporting performances of the year. I think that just quickly on Emma Stone. Like, Emma Stone is up there for getting the award for Best Actress, going up against some of the big hitters from this year. I think that you're probably going to see, like, Barbie's a big hit, so you're going to see Margot Robbie on there. You're going to see Sandra Hüller on there. I haven't seen it yet, but I've heard there's a big thing about Carey Mulligan in Maestro. I heard that's a Oscar-worthy performance. Definitely, and then maybe I don't know if Lily Gladstone's still getting the push for Oscar nomination in Killers of the Flower Moon, but
lead?
for Best Actress, I think that there is a very good chance Emma Stone gets this one in the bag. While I don't think it's her best performance, maybe for myself, I think it's a really, really strong contender for the year. I think it's one of the most entertaining, one of the most engaging performances. And the best part is there is unlike some other performances, a clear physical, orderable, mental evolution of the character. And that's really interesting to see, from the way that she speaks to the way that she acts to her intentions, her motives. They all evolve, and there is a clear beginning, middle, conflict, resolution, and at the end a really good conclusion to her story. Mark Ruffalo, however, is he is an entertaining boy. He steals scenes, but he also complements Emma Stone to a T. There's a little dance sequence together. I was just gushing over the two. How it was like a perfect combination of her and then him and then him and then her and then them together. It was just, they complement each other. They really knew each other's characters, and that was super exciting to see. I know that if we're going to talk about Oscars, because that conversation is really going to start coming into the conversation as we get closer and closer to it, there is some really big hard hitters in supporting actor this year. I know that you're going to have Downey in there for Oppenheimer. You're going to have Gosling in there for Barbie. You're definitely going to have Ruffalo in there. Talking about killers beforehand, De Niro's going to be in there. Possibly even Willem Dafoe. Because I honestly think that, for me, with the first screening, I'd love to see it again, but the first screening, Ruffalo took the limelight. But I think that Willem's performance is subtly just as good. A lot more internal conflict. He's a lot more of a closed-off man than what Mark Ruffalo's character is. And I'd love to dive back into that world and check it out again. Because I feel like Willem Dafoe, his God, the character, I love how they refer to him as God. It was super funny. Is a super interesting character. He has his own conflict. We said that. He has his own father issues. He has his own master issues, which was his father. He was broken apart and put back together. So I think that when it comes to Mark Ruffalo versus Emma Stone for Oscar nominations, Emma's almost got this one in the bag where Mark has to really fight for it. There is going to be that's going to be a really hard category to figure out, because they're going to be pushing for Downey on Oppenheimer, and Gosling has got the whole TikTok community behind his back to win Best Supporting Actor. And you're really going to have the film bros and broskies of Letterboxd pushing Mark Ruffalo to get Best Supporting because
Mhm.
Poor Things is like the perfect movie for Letterboxd fans. That's
Yeah.
like how I
Yeah.
described it to somebody. I was like, "Do you have Letterboxd?" They're like, "No," and I was like, "You're gonna hate Poor Things." And then I described it to somebody else. I was like, "Do you have Letterboxd?" They're like, "Yeah." And I was like, "You're gonna love Poor Things."
I have Charles Melton's here. Shout out to him. I think he's kind of slowly falling off
For
from
May,
the
December?
hype that that people have had like
Yeah.
a week or two ago, because the movie has been kind of received by a wider Netflix audience as I expected, and like they can't really make sense of it. It's like, what is this? Why is it not condemning this outright? Like, why is it a complex character study? But yeah, another great performance. But I think I wouldn't be upset if Mark Ruffalo gets it. Any of the nominees here, even if Ryan Gosling were to get it, I wouldn't be upset. I think there's just been a ton of great original cinema with great performances, and I also have to give a shout out to the screenplay and this, like, as far as adapted screenplay goes for this, I think it's not like the strongest of the year from some of the other stuff that could be in that category, but it is a contender. I think it has like really smartly written scenes. They're definitely gonna play for a screenplay. That one scene where Rami Youssef and Emma Stone are like walking, and she talks about like being a whore, and are you not upset by that? And like the possessive natures that males have usually, or something like that. She says it's just like, oh yeah, it's. I'm gonna spoil here. I'm gonna go with something else, but like I feel like this movie would be a great pairing with Barbie, because on the one side it's like Barbie is like way more lighthearted in the way that it like outright addresses stuff, and this is also like very much in your face. It's also a bit more R-rated in the way that it depicts it, but it gets to go a bit more into the actual nuanced. A little bit more R-rated.
I mean, a little bit more.
But I think it's a nice pairing because it gets to have like actual scenarios and not just like, hey, don't we all notice in America Ferrera has like a 2-minute long speech about like the struggles of being a woman, you know? And that's also, it can be a cathartic moment, like something that I felt like it didn't add to the movie overall, but ultimately maybe it's a great collective moment outside of the film. It's nice to have that in pop culture as popularly as it is, just like being said, because like it can't just feel like an outlet to get out there. But this feels way more like it's going into the it gets to go into the nuances. It's not taking away that like Barbie is just bad now and you gotta prefer Poor Things over it. I feel like the discussion sometimes quickly, especially on the internet, becomes about like, okay, this thing is better, that's why this thing is bad. That's not how it works. It can all be additive, and it's just the different slices of different kinds of pie that you get to enjoy. The to be in theme with ho 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 here is like you get to have a whole sort of cookies instead of just like having the one. And overall, I feel nourished. This was definitely like a great pleasant surprise of the year. And early on, when we got the first trailer, before I got to see it in Venice, I was like, I'm probably not gonna vibe with this because it felt so out there, so weird, and it didn't take long for me to be like completely engrossed into this world and not be like questioning the story that they were telling. I was like in pretty fast. I don't know. You said it took a bit for you to get in there, or?
Yeah, it definitely did. It wasn't until Mark Ruffalo came onto screen and they kind of ran away that I kind of really got engrossed into the world. I don't know. And again, it comes down to me thinking about it later, how I thought, no, I was meant to be uncomfortable. I wasn't supposed to be enjoying the world that Bella was in, and I should be uncomfortable like her because she's closed off to the world. She's married off to this man. And even though Max has the best intentions with Bella, you know, he doesn't come from a place where they honestly met. It was, you know, come study this girl, and he fell in love with her. And I guess in this world that is love, but again, you don't feel comfortable in her situation, and that's okay. That is how you're meant to feel, because you're about to go on a journey with Bella to evolve. And as I said, she physically evolves, she mentally evolves, her dialogue becomes, her sentences become fuller, they become more clear, they're easier to understand. She sexually evolves, like everything about the character evolves, and I feel like the conversation hasn't been said about how sexual this movie is and how daunting that could be for a lot of audiences. But
yeah, go see it with your family.
Don't go see it with your family. But that's just going to be a conversation that's going to be had. Like that, the part of this character's evolution is that awakening. She is a woman in a not a current setting, like previous historic early 19th century 20th century setting. Women weren't in a place of power, and Bella forms her own world. She breaks a stereotype of that decade, and that is something that will make you uncomfortable at first, but you then follow her on that journey and you realize that she is her own woman and kicks ass. And you meet women along the way. There was that old lady on the
Catherine
boat
Hunter.
that also kicks ass.
Oh.
Yeah, like
the lady in the brothel, Swiney, who was Catherine Hunter.
She's great as well. she's
Yeah.
great as well. But yeah, no, the film itself is, as I said, if we're going to talk really quickly about things we don't enjoy, I do feel like there are moments that need to be expanded upon.
Yeah, let's talk about specifics. We haven't really talked about like specific spoilers yet, even though this is a spoiler review. Maybe we can give you a final spoiler warning if you haven't tuned out yet, and talk about like specific things that didn't work for you. Yeah,
I do feel it's funny that I praise that there's a lot of sex scenes in this, but I do feel like we could have cut a couple of those out just to have a little more moments with the setting. I think it was Alexandria, the setting where it's up on the hill, and then there's the poor people down below, and then there's a really interesting character moment with Bella wanting to give the poor everything. Right, we could really expand that moment a little bit more to have more out of that, because that's a really hard moment on her, and it's the first sort of realization of how bad the world could be, and it's kind of just, there are poor people, let's move on. And then it goes into the point about her stealing all the money that, what's his name, Duncan has won, and getting it away. Like that's the next plot point. But that moment is moved on too quickly. Like it's her being held in Harry's hands, and then the moment's moved on. And it's very similar to the second last scene with her husband, her actual husband of the body that was before it was reanimated. Yeah, that moment with him comes too quickly. Like there should have been something building up to that, other than just Duncan betraying her, finding the husband. There should be a moment other than just the, oh, hello, you're this person. No, I'm not this person. That was earlier in the film. There should have been another 2 or 3 moments like that. Maybe including the husband, just so it's not so much of a, here's the husband shock. And because that shock didn't really get me, because I didn't care who this person was. I didn't care that they had a story outside of this current one, because we haven't had a moment to care about that. So all of a sudden it's, here is this moment of a wedding, swept off her feet, taken home, husband, betrayal, yada, yada, yada. And that moment's done in like 15 minutes. And it just wasn't long enough. And whilst I think that the film is long, I don't mind if the film was longer, just to get rid of a couple sex scenes, have those two scenes filled out a little bit longer, and that be the film. I don't think the film is actually long. I just feel like there are moments that are overdone, and then there are moments that are too short that feel super important, especially for an emotional aspect to the character's development. And that was Bella's big reveal of the world being bad, and then Bella's reveal of the life that she had before she was reanimated by Godwin. And those are two very important elements to her story. She is the main character after all. They could have been expanded upon and hit heavier if we had more of it.
I feel like once they reveal that she has killed herself before she threw herself off the bridge, and they basically just snacked up her body, I already get enough of an introduction to what Christopher Abbott and that relationship must have been like with Alfie. So I didn't really need that, and I really liked then just how short that moment at the dinner table. Well, it wasn't that short, but how filled with just tension it is, because I'm genuinely just like, I want her to get out of there and not for her to, even though she has had all of this reinvigorated like new life that she was able to guide herself, she might just be trapped again by a man as easily as that, even though she has had all of that experience and different like worldview as well, and has learned stuff.
Okay.
Like that, I think that is really effective in the way that it's just like it's not as interested in like the previous story then.
So what if less of a scene extension for that last scene,
Yeah.
and more that it was brought to your attention in the background? Like, what if there was like a missing poster for her in London that your attention is brought to, indicating a life that was more important? Because you don't know that she comes from wealth and money, and then it's kind of like this because Godwin isn't a very wealthy man, but he does live in a very quite a big house. And then it's this bigger house, but doesn't feel that much bigger and wealthier. And it feels like there's this sort of, because obviously she suffers from not having money for a large amount of the film. And now, boom, she's back into a marriage with there's actual money. It doesn't feel like there's that juxtaposition of having money, having no money, because we don't know that she comes from it until all of a sudden. I feel like just having her have like a missing person reward X million dollars or whatever would have been, or X thousands of dollars, whatever, would have gone, oh, okay, there's someone out there looking for her, or even someone handing out posters being like, have you seen my wife? Or maybe he doesn't even do that because he's actually technically a piece of shit. But don't get me wrong. Alfie's a fucking piece of shit. And in the 20, 30 minutes we have him on screen, like, Christopher Abbott kills it because it makes me hate him straight away. Like, absolutely brilliant. And I think, again, the performances in this film are wicked, but I feel like for Bella's story, there could have just been a little bit more out of that moment.
I disagree, and I think that's like something interesting that you bring up here. If you I'm gonna elaborate on that, not just say that I disagree. But if you bring up the posters and like basically have a sub-point narrative of her discovering something about herself, about a previous life, then it ultimately in a screenplay sense would lead up to a moment where she has to decide, does she want to go back to her life previously or not? But that's never even the question with this character, and I feel like that's why he doesn't need to bring any of that up before, because it's never at any point even she's questioning, should I go back to this guy, like overall as a character, because she's completely different. She's not the same person. It's nurture, not nature. It's not like you fall into the nature of a woman who's like next to a man, but it's through the nurture that she's had, basically not having nurture and be just throwing out into the world and having a really naive mind and being open to even with her struggles with money. She's basically just like, oh yeah, I guess I gotta sell my body to get through, and it's not like she's not victimized through that. And I think that's also like a great approach to go here, that you could like really quickly go into that. And I don't think it's like trying to make a statement of like sex work is work and that's already good, which I also second. But it's it's like all about her character ultimately, and I love how much it just everyone else is just kind of outside of her perception of her world, and we are living in Bella's world. And anything else we wanna talk about, or you wanna share your rating for the film? I think the film ends really quickly at the end there when they're all just in the garden.
But again, it's because that scene comes out of nowhere. Just saying. Just saying. It's, you don't have to agree with me,
that
but just saying.
At the end, I know. I didn't love the ending, although it is funny to see, what is he at the end, a goat or something?
A goat, yeah, it's pretty funny.
Yeah, that's the thing.
Look,
his mind is in there.
Easiest way to explain this film is, if you love dialogue that is ridiculous and delivered with the straightest face possible, you'll love it. Because there are moments that Bella just says the craziest shit and is just straight-faced, just saying, like, I murdered a pack of baby dogs or something like that. And it's just, you go, what? What's coming out of your mouth? Or you have Mark Ruffalo's character saying the most elaborate sentence that spans over paragraphs that could be summarized in just "I love you." Like he is over explaining. It's like he has a thesaurus and he just goes through words and just goes, how should I say the basic shit but overcomplicate it? But he says it with the straightest face. And that's a lot of these characters. They say the most ridiculous. And it's the same with any Yorgos Lanthimos movie. It's like, those are his characteristics to his films. And if you didn't expect that going in, and if this is your first film of his, then you're in for a ride. Because I think that this film shouldn't be your first of his. Because it might make you feel a bit alienated. You should definitely go watch his other films, which great example would be The Lobster, where it also tackles some really interesting love conversations and themes and addresses them quite well, but it's not so in your face about set design and costumes and hairstyling. It is a lot simpler with that visual style, but the narrative is a lot stronger, and it also has incredible performances from Colin Farrell. Similarly, in this film, he discovered maybe the love of production design from The Favourite, and has gone, I would love more fancy outfits with my dialogue, and I'd love for just colourful Tim Burton-esque LSD, The Beatles, set design world. And a little touch of David Lynch. That's all I'm saying. Just a little sprinkle of just weird, funky designs of David Lynch, and surrealist is another great way of describing the world. It's very surrealist. Like, what's his name? Salvador Dali. Is his name?
Yeah.
Yeah. Like
Salvador
that artist
Dali,
that makes some really like surrealist imagery. That is this film.
Yep.
And it's a lot to throw at you. So you should kind of do your edibles, wait 12 hours for that high to be over, then watch this movie, because you will have a trip.
I mean, shout out to the production designer here, James Price. Who hasn't worked on The Favourite, but he has worked on the Iron Claw, I see. And The Nest, he only has like 4 credits. Yeah, I'm surprised here. Just great work. It's definitely like a collective effort. I assume there's like a bunch of other people. So let's just say, with production for costume design, I'm sure it's head to head with Barbie. Like it's literally a coin toss. What? A coin toss between Barbie and Poor Things, because there are elements that Barbie nails, and there are elements that Poor Things just absolutely kill it. And it's really going to be who like campaigns harder, because there's going to be a lot of campaigning for Barbie, I reckon. I don't know how much campaigning is going to happen for Poor Things. I know that there's some Oscar runs in the past that he's gotten, but production design is a really strong one. Let me put it like this, to kind of convey the levels of production design. In my opinion, it's Barbie Land, but this is Bella's world, you know, if that makes sense. It's one part of it. Yes. The real life isn't as exciting. This one is the whole time through. Incredible production design. But both would deserve it. Again, at the end of the day, it's just an award. Who the fuck cares? Go see both films. But I'm at a 4.5 out of 5 for this one, as far as ratings go. Again, haven't had a chance to rewatch it since August. Looking forward to it when it comes out here in Switzerland, so I'll give it another try. But yeah, what about you, Lachlan?
I'm giving it 4.5.
Ooh, okay. Damn.
That's a high score, isn't it?
That is a very high score. We have to go back maybe for remind me to, I guess, check what our highest collective score was of the year. But a 9 out of 10 from the two of us is very good. Is very good. But yeah, that's that. Very high. That's what you, like you said, shouldn't be to watch this film. Otherwise, like you'll have a bad trip. Imagine this on acid would be horrible. Anyways, if you were to pair it up with another film to make a double feature, Lachlan, what would you go with?
I didn't think of one, and I remember just before we hit record, you were like, "Hey, you should think of a movie
this time?
that
what about
that you should say yours." so I can do the same thing I do every week and quickly Google a whole bunch of fucking movies and then go, yes, that one.
I remember the category that we have in Jeopardy about like 2 movies, 1 title or something like that. My first thing was, okay, what you could go like Poor 10 Things I Hate About You, or Poor Where the Wild Things Are, or what else is there with Poor the Thing? No, I'm going.
The Thing.
Me initially were going to talk about this movie next week, and talk about Rebel Moon today, but it's a long film. They just premiered it now, and we couldn't fit it in. We'll talk about it next week.
Literally 6 hours ago, it came out.
Yeah, for me it was 4 a.m. and I was like, sure as hell not getting up to go see Zack Snyder. But I tweeted last night that like I'll watch it in 2x speed, so it's the real time cut. Because I assume there's gonna be a lot of slow motion. So my pick was Star Wars, the Star Wars Christmas special, because it's his rejected Star Wars idea. Get it? And it's fucking Christmas. But I'm gonna go just with Barbie as my like actual pick. I think it's a great double feature. Poor Things and Barbie.
We talked a lot about set design with this one, and we talked about the evolution of a character, and the movie is about poor things. It makes you feel sad about this particular character's situation, and I think there's another film that has incredible set design and makes you go, oh, I feel bad for this character's situation. It is Guillermo del Toro's The Shape of Water, 2017.
Yeah.
I think it's a fantastic movie to double feature this with because it shares a lot of similar elements. I think they're very different films, but I think they honestly would pair very well with each other.
We didn't even talk about that this was shot on 35mm, by the way. It looks stunning.
It was shot on 35mm? No way. No way. I don't believe you.
Yeah. No, it was. I checked. But
it looked phenomenal.
It looked phenomenal. There's a couple of new releases out on the horizon that you can go see right now. You don't even need to go to a theater for this because they are out on VOD. You can go buy or rent them right now, including Emerald Fennell's second feature, Saltburn. I didn't like it. Lachlan's gonna see it. Maybe he has a different opinion. We'll have a review for that one out at some point as well. There's also Dream Scenario. You were hyped for this one. Can't wait to get your thoughts on that. And then continuing along the Venice films that are now premiering, Priscilla is also out. Jacob Elordi, Kaylee Spaney, I think, something like that is her name. She won the Best Actress Award in Venice, so really solid performance there. Go check those out. But if you are going out over the holidays into a theater, then you can go see American Fiction over there, as well as Poor Things. And if you are actually the poorest of all things, then maybe you also go see Aquaman and the Lost Kingdom. I really advise you to not do that, but I can't hold you back. Some people are just going to go see Aquaman, and we can't do anything about that. Out in Swiss theaters, we got Priscilla as well, if you want to see it on the big screen. And Ferrari is out here as well. So next week, we'll be back with a movie set to be determined. We'll probably go with one of the ones that we watch over the week, and that's the most exciting to talk about in spoiler fashion. And we might have some non-spoiler review out for some of the other films that we also caught. But yeah, in the meantime, don't forget to leave a like and subscribe to the channel to not miss those new episodes. Go check out my weekly recap. And yeah, Lachlan, anything else you want to add before we close out this Christmas special, or like this holiday special?
I feel very sad for you sitting in that Santa outfit. You look like you've had a very uncomfortable time, you poor thing.
It's at least it's not itchy. Like this looks like it's very itchy. It's actually not itchy at all. It's just very
I'm glad I didn't wear this Spider-Man mask this entire time because this is
As soon as I see someone with a Spider-Man mask, I just imagine someone else in an Elsa costume as well, and
Oh, for fuck's sakes! I hate how I know what you're referring to.
Yeah. Anyways, we'll see you next week.
Bye, everybody.
Next week, final episode of the year. Next week.
Of the year. Okay. Bye.